All right, I think we'll get started here. Did everybody get a chance to sign in? No, we're still working its way around.
There's two sheets, but they're the same.
Oh,
Right? Oh, okay.
yeah, I think so. Okay. All right, well, thank you guys all for coming to our informational session about Walsh County Career Builders. My name is Angela French. I work with the Walsh County JDA, and I am working on this project along with some of our committee members who are here today, Don Hudson, Stacy, Mike, and Nancy. So I wanted to start with the best person to talk to about information is, the state. They're the ones that run this program that we're working with. So Brenda was gracious to join us, and I'm just hoping she can give a little overview because our program wants to work with the state program, which is North Dakota Career Builders. So I thought we would start there, let her explain that, and then we'll turn it over to Brad. Brad works in Devil's Lake, and he has this program. He runs it in his county. So we thought that would be a good way to go. And then we'll turn it over to First Care, who has practical experience with it right here in our county. So Brenda, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, well, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. Brenda's Astapine. I'm with the North Dakota University System, and Career Builders just happens to be one of the projects that we administer on behalf of the state. It came out of the 2019 legislative session, and I'll just kind of give you the 30,000 foot view. Brad's real world experience and what they're doing with First Healthcare Center is much more interest than all the details. But the Career Builders program was built for the purpose of recruiting and retaining employees within the state of North Dakota, specifically in high need and emerging occupations. And it was built as a partnership between the state and businesses, employees and institutions. And the state has funding. The business aspect and what they do is provide private sector funds. We cannot issue the state funds without matching dollars. And students, either on the scholarship on the front end or a loan repayment on the back end for a new hire, they agree to live and work in the state. So therein is the partnership between all of those individuals. The high need and emerging occupations list is what really drives the program. That list is put together by Job Service and Workforce Development Council on an annual basis. They usually do it in June, July, and August of every year. And as of right now, we retain all of the occupations on that list until we're told we can't do that. But as of now, from year to year, we retain those occupations. And that helps you with your plans for recruitment. It helps students with their plans for enrolling in college and doesn't pull the rug out from anyone as they're planning for using this program. Recipients can qualify for up to $17,000 under the program. They can qualify for either a scholarship or loan repayment, or they can qualify for both. So in that scenario, you could, in essence, scholarship on the front end and offer that individual an additional carrot on the back end with loan repayment to have them come and work for you after they've graduated. Half of that $17,000 would be funded by the state, and the other half would be funded by business. I can tell you we have anywhere from awards of $500 up to $17,000. So the matching portion can be anything up to $8,500, and then the state would match up to $8,500. I did mention that it's either on the front end as a scholarship, back end as loan repayment. There are a lot of different occupations. Brad's picture there, he has a poster board of all the occupations. Those are listed on our website, and I can drop that in the message box when I'm done here. But there's healthcare and finance and skilled trades, transportation, so a wide variety of occupations. Those are to be looked at more broadly. They're not a job description that we would that you would have to actually be hiring somebody with that job description, but more of what are their job duties is what we look at, and then try to slot them in one of those high need areas. I mentioned that it's either a scholarship on the front end or loan repayment on the back end. Brad Barth in the Devil's Lake area has done both scholarship and loan repayment for individuals. Scholarships for that, individuals have to be attending a college in North Dakota, and those are for programs that are at the 2-year level or below, and they do include certificate programs. For instance, I got a call today about CDL training out of Train ND Southeast, and that would be a qualifier. Truck drivers are CDL, with the CDL licensing, that's in high demand in the state. So that would be a qualifier. If a program, let's say, is $6,000 and a business wants to put up $3,000, the state can match that, and that makes your recruitment dollars go a little bit farther then. So those are at the 2-year level or below within the state. Now, as we move into loan repayment, it's a little bit different. We can look at degrees from anywhere. They do not have to be specifically from North Dakota institutions. Those degrees can be earned from any institution. We look for loan repayment at a newly hired individual. Who we call newly hired is someone hired within the past 24 months. So if you're doing loan repayment even now for someone at your organization, you could essentially tap into this program if they've been hired within the last 24 months, and again, make your retention dollars go a little bit farther. The commitment to the state on behalf of the recipients is basically we're looking for 3 years, and we're looking for scholarship recipients to live and work in the state for at least 3 years following the program completion. And if they do not live and work in the state for that 3-year period, they would pay back the scholarship dollars received to the state program. And on the loan repayment side, we look at it the same way. We're really hoping that that individual lives and works within the state for 3 years. With loan repayment, there's a little bit less risk for the business in that the individual works and then they would receive a payment. Using an example of a $17,000 award for an individual, we would split that over 3 years. So the maximum a new hire could get is $5,667 per year. And we split that over 3 years. The individual works and then they receive payment, they work and then they receive payment. So it's a earn as you go type program with loan repayment. We also, with both of the programs, scholarship as well as loan repayment, we only ask for the funding on the private sector side as needed. So if you're looking at loan repayment, we wouldn't ask for the donation form and the full amount up front. What we do is monitor that employee's residency and working in North Dakota, and at the appropriate time, we reach out to you and request all of the documents that we would need, as well as the private sector funds. So that, in a nutshell, is what the program is about. It's a tool for you to recruit and retain employees in your organizations, in your area. We have other JDA offices that are obviously doing this. That's why Brad's on the call today. Cavalier County also is starting to unveil this to their businesses. We've also worked up in Rugby with their JDA office. They already had a loan repayment program in place when this came about, so this was a really good fit with that, as well as what Brad has in Devil's Lake. They already had a scholarshiping program in place. So this was a really great tool to make those dollars go a little bit farther. So with that, I will stop and see if there are any questions for me.
Yes, Brenda, I've got a question on, you talk about the loan repayment program you'll pay for out-of-state people, but let's say it's a scholarship program, and Brad can talk about this. There's dental assistants and dental hygienists and their only school, I think, in North Dakota is in Walsh. If that was full and if you're qualified and you went out of state, I can understand there's some in Moorhead. Could we give scholarship to somebody to go to Moorhead and then come back to North Dakota?
So for the scholarship, those are institutions within the state. Dakota College Botno is also opening up their program for hygienists up at Botno. So I know that will help expand that pool of potential employees a little bit more. Unfortunately, at this time for scholarship, it is institutions within the state, not across the border. Now that individual could be recruited back though with a degree from Moorhead.
Some of those programs fill up and then there's no room for anybody else to get in.
We could do it on the back end, so we could do the tuition program or the student loan.
The loan
payment
repayment.
Loan
program.
repayment.
Even though backwards.
Yeah. Qualify on both ends.
Because I've already had questions on a couple of those, especially those dental hygienists.
Mhm.
That knows all about that.
I can talk to that specifically, you guys. My wife's been a dental hygienist for 40 years. I've talked to her multiple times to recruit a young male or female from Devil's Lake, and she did recruit one, but guess what? The girl didn't get into the program. It's a very competitive program. You know, you get 24 kids and there's more than that. I think she was like 40th on the waiting list. So she tried for a year and a half, didn't get in, but she did get in dental assisting. So I talked to her father last night at 7 o'clock. He was excited. She was excited. We're going to do dental assisting for her. So, you know, that's the challenge. You know, some of these programs, we don't have enough slots in the state filling them, you know, for education. So that's why Botno is getting the program. And, but yeah, it's specific to that degree and to that field. You know, that's why this list, I've got a chart that I live by, and it's those you know, roles that you have to really match up for this program. And Brenda manages it, but the state, you know, legislature is set up and a lot of the rules kind of came about and they've got those rules.
Any more questions for Brenda? Otherwise, we can turn it over to Brad.
So I have something for you, Brenda. This is Marcus. It's nice to see a face with all the emails we've had back and forth. How have you seen this? You've used Botno, Devil's Lake, Cavalier County. How have you seen this funded in the past or with these other county organizations?
So how have they set up their programs?
Private
Yeah.
portion of it.
Yeah, and Brad can certainly talk to his program. Up in with the rugby JDA, that is actually fully funded by the JDA, and then we match that portion through the Cavalier JDA and that whole setup. I know that for the JDA will fund a portion, the business funds a portion, and then the state matches that. So we private sector dollars are what we are seeking out to create that match. We consider private sector anything except state funds and federal funds. So if somehow the JDA through their activities and has money to put into loan repayment and to attract individuals into the communities, that would be considered private sector money. So it's really up, you know, they're being set up differently, but I can tell you in Cavalier, it's a portion from JDA, a portion from businesses. And they also may even look at the type of position as far as the percentage that they will fund, as far as the in-demand and high need in that area. Brad, what do you do with your program?
Yeah, good question. You know, guys, I started our program because I had experience. I worked at Wahpeton Science for 8 years. I saw kids, you know, come to the school and go to Denver and not go back to Devil's Lake and not go back to Grafton and rugby. So, you know, I've been involved with it for that period of time. We started out with $6,000. Why 6? I don't know. I thought that's what I could get my board, to be quite honest. And, you know, the idea at that time was I was going to get 6, the student was going to get 6, the business do 6. It was like, let's try to get, you know, $18,000, and that covers, for the most part, tuition and fees, as well as some additional costs for the students. So that's how it started. I just kept the 6, and when the state came along with the match a couple of years into my program, that's what I still do. I know Carrington's a new one. Carrington, I talked with her the other day. They're at 4.5, and they have business do 4.5. I don't know, Brenda, if they've had any yet, but so they get that 8, not 4.5, I guess it'd be 4.25, right? They get the full 8,500 between the business and the community. Then the state matches it for 8,500. That's $17,000. I asked my business to stand me up even more, because at the end of the day, you know, it's not about the money you guys have and we have and the business has. It's about what's competitive for the kid. Diesel technology kids can get a full ride from businesses that are willing to sponsor them from throughout the country. I've got a brochure. This is my local leading edge John Deere dealership. They're doing 17,000, and then they're also doing 15 grand in loan repayment. The company is doing that. So I'm doing 6,000. They're adding 2,500. We're getting $17,000 for the scholarship portion. That's done. We can't do any more through the state, and the business is going to do $15,000 in student loan payments over 3 years. That's in their brochure. They say that's 89% of the cost of a 2-year John Deere diesel technician training for Wahpeton. And this is their brochure. That's how serious they are here. So at the end of the day, you know, it's what do you need for your marketplace? And the key is aligning graduating youth with the jobs in our region. You know, I'll take a kid from Grafton to work in Devil's Lake, and I'm sure you would take a kid from Devil's Lake to work in Grafton. You know, to work together. At the end of the day, it's about aligning that youth with the local jobs with a good enough package that they'll come back and won't be stolen by an out-of-state company. Pretty harsh the way I say it, but I've lived down there in Wahpeton for 8 years. I saw private jets come in and take kids on trips, and the next thing you know, the kid was working in Denver. He was working I remember a kid going to San Francisco. It was a former North Dakotan that started a business in San Francisco, and he needed electricians. So that's the reality. Any other questions at all for Brenda?
I've got one, if I understood you right. You said that on a scholarship setup, the person is required to work the 3-year agreement, or they have to pay the scholarship back, correct? So.
Yes.
Why is that requirement not carried through on the loan repayment side?
So on the loan repayment side, there is the requirement for 3 years, but there again, it's an earn as you go. So if the individual they're already in your organization working. On the scholarship side, they're not. So in order, they receive scholarship dollars upfront as they're in college, and they commit to the state then at that point to live and work in the state for 3 years. There's still that 3-year commitment under the loan repayment, but in order for that individual to get the full benefit of that $17,000, again, they would have to stay the full 3 years. They're set up just two different programs in 2 different ways. So there's still that 3-year commitment to get the full benefit. Now, if a student graduates and works for a year in North Dakota, they would have and then decides to go to South Dakota or to San Francisco, they have already satisfied 1/3 of that requirement, and they would only have to pay back the 2/3.
You know, the reality is in the 3 years or 2 years that we've been doing this, Brenda, I've had students that have gotten through the first semester of a program, and the money lost for that scholarship was lost for us for that first semester. I've had some that have graduated and said, okay, thanks for the scholarship, but I work on the family farm. Now they're living and working in North Dakota, once I give the money to Brenda, it's gone. It goes to the state, it's gone. Brenda, I don't know, do you collect if they're working as a farmer, but they were supposed to be a diesel technician? Do you know that?
Well, we take a look at what their job duties are. So that's where there is to business, there's obviously a little more risk on the scholarship side. You're not certain that you're going to get that student back to your organization. You might have even a contract with them that says, we're requiring this, or we expect this to this amount back. But nothing's guaranteed there. They also could potentially go across the street and work for the competition and still be meeting the career builders living and working in North Dakota. So we do have some of those situations, and they are a small portion that do default on that. But what we do on the collection side is the Bank of North Dakota assists with collecting those dollars back. Once they're in the program, they are part of the career builders. Now we go back to, let's say, NDSCS, and we say, okay, we received this amount back from a student that defaulted on their agreement, and that was supplied by Brad Barth. Would there be another student that he would like to now sponsor with those dollars that we've collected back? So we trace it back to the donator of those funds, so that you're hopefully in the end getting still benefit from another student. But it is a reality that the scholarship has a little bit more risk on the front end. As I mentioned, though, we let's say that you're planning to scholarship $8,500, and then we would match that $8,500. We don't ask for those dollars up front, so they're not tied up within the program. We ask for them on an as-needed basis. So if we would split that amount up over 4 semesters, semester 1, we verify that they're enrolled, and then only request the funds from the organization. The same happens with loan repayment. We don't ask for that money up front. We ask for it as needed. So again, the individual works. We verify that they've been working, they're living in North Dakota, they're still in that qualifying occupation. And then we request the private sector funds and all of the information that we would need from the business. So on that side, especially with loan repayment, there's really no risk, because that individual has completed that portion of their agreement.
Brad, what kind of numbers are you getting for participation?
Is that you, Brenda? I missed.
Brad, what kind of numbers for participation?
Yeah, I would love to say 100 guys, but I haven't got it. I've probably had 30, 40 kids that have been interested in the program. I was just telling Brenda, I need her to help me keep track. Given time, I'll have 5 or 6 that we're doing checks for probably. My failure rate probably is as good as my success rate. I'm about half. The reality is that. But I also saw that when I was in Wappinan. I saw kids coming in programs, a class started out with 30 kids in it and 20 are in, so the aligning part and the matching up with the business and making sure that they're successful is very important, as it is for any college student. That's one of the challenges of the program, is you're asking a high school junior or senior to commit to a job and a career. That isn't as easy today as it was in 1976 or 78 when I graduated. I wanted to be a computer guy as a senior in high school, and that's what I ended up being, computer sales. But right now I've got a couple of, I think Brenda's seen one of the applications, and the other one's coming. Childcare is important. We've got childcare in Devil's Lake here. So we're doing 2 student loan repayments for childcare students to help keep them in that profession in Devil's Lake. That's 2 that I'm doing. I got a call last night, as I mentioned, a dental assistant. That's taken 3 years for it to come to fruition. She had to school and get her electives or generals, I guess you would call them, before she goes to Wapaton next fall. And she wanted to be a hygienist, but she's settling right now on an assistant and hopefully will take hygiene afterwards. I know for a fact that I could use 3 dental hygienists in this town right now. My wife is being asked to continue working at the age of 64. I go home every night. She doesn't want to work because the doctor can't find another dental hygienist. She would be not working right now if she wasn't loyal to the doctor. So, those are the things that we have to really look at. I think the alignment of those critical bottleneck positions in communities is where I've spent my time. I need 100 diesel technicians within 60 miles of Devil's Lake. It just boggles my mind when I call those companies and see that they have 100 people working for them. At any given time at Wapaton, I don't think they graduate, but maybe 35, 40 a year. And to think that I might have, figure 20% at retirement age, that out of that 100, I could need 20 potentially, 10 to 15 for sure, as they are approaching retirement. And you can go down a lot of different positions in our communities where we're losing people that are highly skilled that just aren't getting people into that pipeline. And that's how you got to use the program in my mind. You've really got to think about the positions that you need filled in your communities.
And from just the bigger picture, I can give you a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at for numbers. Since 2019, we have graduated or recruited into the loan repayment 109 individuals. So that is over 100 jobs created for high need occupations in the state in about 2.5 years. And we have another 79 students in the pipeline taking programs. Overall, the commitment, it has been 1.6 million, half of that funded by the private sector in the state. And overall, we have 80 unique private sector donors contributing to the program.
No other questions? We 27 minutes, Angela, hopefully that's okay.
You talk about the pipeline. I think Mike could talk about the pipeline a little bit of what he's got going on at the school over there. About kids he found jobs for all summer nights, and we participated in paying their salaries.
Yeah, Brad doesn't know this, we have kind of more of a program in place to kind of keep kids in the neighborhood, so I'll turn it over to Mike to talk about that.
Yeah, I guess we started kind of our youth entrepreneurship initiative 7 years ago when I started at North Valley, and we worked with the regional council closely to kind of formalize a lot of the things that we were doing when it comes to career exploration and work-based learning. And so I guess it kind of led us into doing a job shadow and requiring all of our students to do a job shadow. We've had a lot of you host those job shadows, thankfully, through the years. And I drove a lot of those kids back and forth to their job shadows. And one of the conversations that we've had is the students all felt, that's great, I got this job shadow experience, but the only place that's hiring is Hugo's. Or the only place I can get a job is, and so these kids all thought at high school, a lot of these kids felt like the only place they could get a job at is either the movie theater, the grocery store, or something like that. And so we felt it was kind of our job. The next step was to show them that there's opportunities within a career path that they choose. And that's why we've had the internships crank up. And so last summer we had 33 summer internships where our students earned over $100,000 within a career path or their career pathway, and they earned high school credit union. And so that was where we asked for investment from the JDA and the Grafton's Economic Development to help fund that. And what we used some of those dollars for was reimbursing the businesses for some of their paperwork and things like that they had to do in order for students to get credit. So if you hosted a summer intern We gave you $5 an hour for the first 75 hours that student worked. 75 hours equals a half a credit. So that's the reason why we stuck with that. And then after that, we were hoping that they were productive enough to earn you some money. Is the idea. But this is kind of next step to that, I would think. What I'm hoping is that our kids are seeing that there's great potential to earn and make a career in our region. And I'm also hoping that the businesses are able to vet some of these kids and now willing to invest in them to go to school and come back and work for them. This, that summer internship, if they work 150 hours, which is not a lot, obviously, we know that. Kids think it's a lot when you're telling them, and then all of a sudden they meet their 150. But anyway, what I'm hoping is now the kids have a chance to kind of interview you too as an employer, and is that someplace they see themselves working long term? And you have a chance to see if you want to invest in that student. And that's what I was hoping this Career Builders would be, is now the businesses will invest into the students, and the JDA and obviously our economic development will invest into students to bring them back here. Because they've had a chance to explore that career, explore those businesses, do those things. So yeah, that's kind of what led up to this. I mean, today we had Marketplace for Kids, which is a career exploration activity. There were 700 kids in Grafton going to 24 different breakout sessions with keynote speakers and things like that. So those are all things we're trying to do to expose our students to the opportunities we have in our region. Right around, I mean, it seems to have been very successful. We've had great reception from industry and from the education side of things. There's a lot of other centers now kind of trying to emulate what we've created between the regional council, the JDAs, and economic development. So we appreciate all the support. Obviously, you guys hosted, I don't know how many shadows that first was, and you hosted some. I mean, we've had, Sunny has, how many students do you have working for you right now, Walsh?
I got 7 students out of the welding shop working for us from the Voltec right now.
So another piece of that is the internship is for the summer, or summer credit. Another step is the cooperative work experience, which happens during the school year, where students, like we have a student, for example, in Grafton right now, he's working at Rocks Electric. He's a senior, comes to class for first period and second period, and he goes out and works for Rocks the rest of the day and earns money and earns high school credits. And so those are the only 2 classes he had left to graduate, other than to get a couple of elective credits, which we can get him through the cooperative work experience. And so, there's a way to make things happen. And I think the flexibility that you've all given us, and I think the state has, we're working within the parameters of the state, which is great. They want to change all these rules, and I said, we don't really need to. We just need the opportunities out in the industry to take kids. And that's been wonderful received here. So no, it's been very positive. I mean, we've had kids working at banks for a summer internship. We have kids working at the hospital here in town, and we've had at the clinic in Grafton, the nursing home, True Value. We've had kids working there. Kringstead is obviously a huge supporter of North Valley and has been for years. So kind of placed all over, which makes it really exciting. Like no matter what the pathway, we're able to find placement for them, and that's been really good. So,
And we think it's a great asset to have.
yeah.
I mean, as far as the cooperative work experience for us, I mean, we got 2019 graduates that still work for us. They work the cooperative with us, and I mean, there's no better learning than hands-on experience when it comes down to it. And 2 of those students, or 3 of those students, are still with us. I mean, once school was over, and then they worked with us in the summer. They did the cooperative work experience. They got their experience, and they graduated. And the first thing they asked was for a full-time job. And we had that for them, and that's what we're there for. I mean, it's a great asset for what we do as far as that. I mean, you keep the kids around here, and they realize that there's opportunity in Walsh County to have a good career and make some money. So.
I feel like one of our biggest holdups and it's just part of the modest North Dakota, and I grew up here too, is that the perception that we try to portray to our kids is that we're all just making it, barely, we're sliding by. And they think the way to make money is have to move to Fargo, Minneapolis, or someplace like that. They don't realize that we have very lucrative careers within our region. And we're so modest, especially some business owners, I think about, like, you know, they're talking about the succession planning on Main Street and who's gonna come and take over these businesses. Well, they, you know, they act like they're barely getting by, and some maybe are, but how are you gonna get a kid, entice a kid to come take over a business that they don't think you can make money in? You know, like, we're modest people, I know we are, we're Midwest modest, and that's just how we are, it's how I was raised also. But we need to start bragging a little bit, not necessarily throwing money around, that's not what I'm getting at. But the lifestyle that you can live here, owning a business or working for a business owner is pretty luxury. I mean, it's nice. And so there's money to be made, and we need to start exposing our kids and opening up a little bit and being real with them that, you know, we have people making really good money working for us, and that helps a lot. And I think Craig says has been great with that. We did a mock interview, I think that year, Sunny,
Yeah, we did.
where Brian Stassny's our welding instructor, brought over 5 or 6 kids, 7 kids to do a mock interview, and they hired them all on the spot. It was pretty, you know, those are the success stories that we have that, you know, like, I mean, how does anybody frown upon that, right? I mean, it's exciting. That's what we need. So anyway, I'm rambling now, but
I got a question then, basically maybe both of you, Sonny. So I've thought about trying to do job shadow with the lumberyard. You mentioned True Value does it. But our insurance says that if we're gonna have anybody operating a saw, driving a forklift, driving a truck, needs to be 18. Because otherwise we can't have them work for us. I would assume that being a welder would be a similar risk for that student. So how do you get around that insurance side?
so if they're earning credit from us, they are still a learning employee, which helps with that you can get by with that.
Okay.
It's still a high school class.
Yeah. So if they're earning credit, and we do have, I mean, you don't have workman's comp on, but we have workman's comp on every one of our students.
Okay.
For the job shadow and everything. I mean, so all of our students are covered under North Valley workman's comp.
That's why I've never pursued anything
Yeah.
with, just because I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, and that's great that we can have these conversations.
When it comes to some of that specialized stuff, you know, as far as running forklifts or a saw, stuff like that, I mean, we don't just put the kid on a forklift and, you know, here it is.
No, I
You know,
get that.
there's a pretty
Figure it out.
lucrative training thing that goes on with it, you know.
No, I
so,
know that.
I mean, they're taught the proper ways, and it's a little while, but I mean, I can see the concern where you'd be on that for sure.
Well, I just, like I said, I've looked at it before. We've had kids apply, and I remember growing up, when my dad worked for the lumber, or for the Robertson Corporation, I could not get a summer job there, no matter what, until I was 18. Because, and it still holds true, because company vehicles, forklifts, saws, and so that's where my question was, how are you getting around that? Because I've often thought about trying to get somebody from the construction trades to come over, but I didn't pursue it because knowing that if they're sophomores or juniors, they're not of age, so how am I going to do it? Now I have an idea.
I can get that documentation to you, so you can
Okay.
see.
Is there a difference with the job shadow versus the co-op? Because ours are co-op more so than the job shadow that we have.
Yeah, like I said, they're all workman's comp to us, and that's covered, but as long as they're in a learning experience through accredited school, then they can get around that insurance issue. And so that's kind of, so they're really tied to us. You know, they're on your payroll, they're on everything on your end, just if they're an intern. But they're really tied to North Valley too, and that helps with the insurance side, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Listening, to you guys, you know, I'm jealous. I mean, I did mine the opposite way. We didn't have internship. We don't have internship programs to the degree that you guys have. We've got a few of those, but not not formal programs. So I'm starting to try to do that now, to follow on behind the career builder and that type of match. So, we just don't have as many, larger manufacturers. I've got 2 true primary sector manufacturers, maybe 3, and, a total of maybe 50, 60 jobs, in Devil's Lake. I don't have those 200, 300 person type employers. So, but it sounds like you also have them in the hardware store and other things. That is just perfect. I mean, now the key is you got them working for this. If there's somebody you want to snap up, you need the career builder to snap them up, because once again, I'm going to tell you, if they go away to school and come back for some program, there's no guarantee they're coming back, because they're being recruited heavily while they're going to school.
So Brad, do you want to add anything? Would you like to say anything about your program?
No, I think that's fine. I think you guys get the gist and understand what we're trying to do here. A little bit smaller community, smaller companies. Brenda's program, at the end of the day, every 2 years, it has to get renewed. That's the other problem with it. Brenda's kind of, because it's legislative, what do you call it? Appropriations to those programs. So, we need success. They were concerned that it just didn't go like gangbusters, and $6 million just didn't go out the door the first 2 years. Well, it was also COVID years. I mean, it wasn't the best world, from that standpoint. So they kept the original appropriations, and the dollars that were left over, they let those ride to the next 2 years. And hopefully I'm saying this right, Brenda. There's dollars available now in the programs, but not fully funded. We're going to need in 2023, we're going to need it to be replenished again to provide the dollars. So, if the community uses it, we need to also support it. So if you got legislators in the group, please support career builders. If not in the group, talk to your legislators. But that, put it that way, that in 2023, we need to be lobbying to get it refilled. And I'm a strong believer in it for smaller communities, especially the Devil's Lake side. It helps us with bottlenecks. There's a lot of kids that don't think about what they're going to do until the day they graduate from high school, and mom and dad say, "What are you going to do?" And this is one program that, if you've got they have some sort of aptitude and they want to try something, and the employer is willing to give them a shot, using community dollars, they can get them through school with scholarship. That's what Devil's Lake's doing. And then hopefully they stick around those 3 years and they become a productive employee. Hopefully they bring back somebody that they met at school, and it's another worker for Devil's Lake. That's how we look at it, is each one that goes to school is potentially going to come back with a significant other. So if that's 30, now we've got 60, and that's the growth that we need in a community our size.
To kind of piggyback on some of your comments there, I know there was a lot of focus on the amount that was expended, which was well under $1 million the first biennium. If you really think about this as a startup business, and we started with 1 widget maker in fall of 2019, and now we've grown it to 109 widget makers, and we think there's going to be at least another potentially 100 within the next 2 years widget makers. And we thought we were going to make those widgets at $17,000 a piece. And for scholarship, those are actually averaging about $5,000 to $6,000, right in that range per recipient. Loan repayments upwards around $14,000. So the way I look at it is we're actually saving the state money. We're bringing people into the state, keeping them here in high need occupations, and we're doing it under budget. So that's my spin on the dollar thing. But yeah, I think too, as you're thinking about this, it takes a while to wrap your brain around the moving parts. But just like Brad, you had to dip your toes in at some point and just give it a try. And one of the things that between the institutions, their staff, as well as our office here, we really do the heavy lifting on it. We monitor the students and guide you through the process. So You know, if you're struggling with a point or two on the program, just give us a call and we'll definitely walk you through on that.
I can second that. Brenda was very helpful for first grade. I think both the recipient and us as the private dollars constantly in contact asking questions on it. And I hope the legislature and the appropriations committee takes your argument into seriousness about saving money, because I like that perspective. But it's a much needed program. I think Richard Branson said, train your people well enough so they can leave you, treat them well enough so they don't. That's what we're doing.
And do you guys want to go ahead and talk about your program?
Sure.
Do you use it in our community? Can I say that?
So as I'll jump in and I'll let Nina get to the details. You know, nursing, the last 2 years have brought very interesting live in healthcare, and there's been mass retirement nationwide. There's been shortages nationwide. Contract staff 5%. I don't care what you're buying. I don't care what you're using, what you're paying, anything. Nobody budgeted for a 500% increase in costs. Contract nursing, contract lab, contract respiratory therapy, up 500%. So it's so important, let alone the quality of the service of somebody who's there as a travel staff compared to somebody who. Oh, it's so important to try to do that and to have that. You, someone who grew up in your area, is so much of a perspective and going to get that stewardship from your staff when they might have been born in the facility. It's pretty cool. So this program, as soon as we heard about it, I said, well, hopefully the JDA and the Economic Development Committee see the benefit that we do, but either way, we're jumping on. And first opportunity we can, because when this happened, we were 2.5 FTE short in lab and 2.5 people. And said, oh, well, let's add garage testing. Massive amounts of added work on somebody that's 40% short of their staff. I'm thankful for the dedication that our staff have done. I'm happy to say that within the next couple of years, we'll be staff in that department. So, but we jumped at this and we were so excited because the Center for Rural Health, Stacey Kuzer, works a lot with UND. It's a state-funded program, but she's our recruiting. She helps with a lot of things. And I'm in constant contact with her, discussing provider recruitment, different staff. Nursing, providers, and behavioral health has been the state's focus for 10 years in healthcare. Lab techs went on, and I'm emailing, we got to get lab techs. I'm calling legislators, we got to get lab techs. We need help with this. You know? And so when this came, it was a godsend. I guess I don't know if you want to go through the details of this specific.
I mean, I feel like the piece we can kind of speak to, and maybe more Evan than myself, but is the administration part. I mean, for a facility, this is a really simple program. Honestly, it's Brenda's been a wonderful resource. Any questions we had, she was wonderful to reach out to. So yeah, from the administrative standpoint, this is a no-brainer. It's granted we had some procedures in place, which really helped us out. But I mean, it's no more than you get that request from an employee, you have someone double checking this list, oh, it fits, and you just go through the process, which again, I'll let Evan jump into his perspective on that. But from my end, it was simple.
Yeah, I'll echo the simple part. One point I'd like to put out there too is I'm no longer considered a youth, so don't just focus on the young folks too. This is a third career for me. I had a degree in biology that helped. Moved back to North Dakota, didn't want to live in Bismarck. We settled in Park River with my family, and it pigeon-tailed very nicely where we've got a nice hospital here. It has a lab. I had lab work previous career. And so working with Bismarck State is where I'm going. It's online courses. Their faculty has been phenomenal as far as working with my schedule. I also run the Grand Forks as a firefighter, so I'm doing all sorts of stuff. So don't forget those non-traditional students that are in your communities that may be looking for ways to get in, that they're stuck doing something that they don't like and want to change. So don't forget those, because like I said, I'm doing online courses. The hospital's been awesome, not only with the funding, but with my supervisor. If it's a little slower, I'm studying at the hospital. So those pieces have made this phenomenal. And any question I've had, I've called Brenda, super helpful, answered right away. So it's a great program.
And I think we'll say bye to Brad and Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for having, yeah.
The last speaker, I'd make a commercial of that, guys. I would market that. I don't know.
We ran them off by the minute.
And quite seriously, you need to make a commercial, and everyone that is go through our program, I require them to say that we can publicize their story. And for some families, that's hard, but the young kid from Munich, North Dakota, that is going to be a diesel technician at the Case IH dealer, that resonates with other kids, and it's going to get it to grow and to have more success. My workforce is small communities around Devil's Lake. I've got to save those kids. I got to keep them here. But I also want the guy that's coming in from, where did you come from? Tennessee? I couldn't hear, but if, and Devil's Lake, we've got people every day, and I've got to get the word out to those. So good luck, you guys. I hope we do better than Grafton, because I'm Devil's Lake, but I hope you guys do well too. Thanks, Angel.
Yeah, so I dropped the website into the chat again for you. And within our website, we do have a toolkit for businesses. If you're utilizing the program, there's a logo there for you. Feel free to use whatever you need to out of that toolkit. We have just a little blurb of what we would like to see in marketing. It's not much other than making sure you're linking to the full list, so that individuals know that it's more than just for nursing or just for welding, that it's the whole list that Brad has behind him. That's pretty much the extent of what we ask. So we appreciate your support on it, and hope we can make some good things happen for you.
Thank you. I think we'll just kind of go into Walsh County Career Builders. I'll just kind of briefly overview what our thought is on that, and then we can open it up to questions.
I'm just standing.